Book of Ezra, that's the Old Testament, and we continue our study there this morning. How many people look at the front of the bulletin in the morning and go, "Oh, I wonder what Pastor Kevin's going to talk about today"? Anybody do that? You know that the message title is there. And if you looked at that title today, it says, "A Godly Church." And you might say to yourself, "Pastor, there wasn't a church back in Ezra's time. There was Israel. Israel wasn't a church. Israel is a nation. And it didn't have churches back then. They didn't go to church. Today, people of the Jewish faith don't go to church. They go to synagogue or they go to temple, but they don't go to church. So how could we be talking about a godly church when we're in the Old Testament?" Well, I'm glad you asked that. As I've said before, and hopefully you've remembered, the word church in the Greek, the word that we translate from the Greek into the English, church, is the word ecclesia. And literally the word means a group of people gathered together for a common purpose. We think of church and it's a building. Oh yeah, that church down the road, you know, the one with the big tall steeple. That church. But that's not really a church. That's what, in English, that's what it's come to mean for us. But that's not really what it is. As we've said, this is not a church until we all get in here and call upon the name of the Lord. Then it's a church. Okay, now we're having church. Because we're all here and we're calling on the name of the Lord. In the book of Acts, there's a story of Paul being in Ephesus. And you remember the story? There was such an awesome revival in Ephesus that the idol business went out of business. And the people who made idols didn't like that. And so they got a big, huge group of people together and they gathered in the Colosseum that's there in Ephesus and would hold about 20,000 people. And they're all in there shouting and yelling. And if you look in the Greek, the word that is used to refer to that group of people that are in the Colosseum shouting out for a pagan god, they're called an ecclesia, a church. See, that's a church. And so we can find some good information, I believe, in this last part of the book of Ezra about what a godly church is, because what Ezra was doing was he gathered a group of people together in the name of the Lord, and they headed back to Jerusalem and instituted some things there. He was gathering people together for a common purpose, and therefore can be a model, or at least some indications for us of what a church should be like. What are the characteristics? Not exclusively, not extensively, but here's some of the characteristics of a godly church. And actually, we're going to see 4 of them. And they all grew out of this fact. Remember in Ezra 7:10, we looked at this last week. It says that Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord and to do it, and to teach statutes and ordinances in Israel. He purposed in his heart to know the Word of God, to live the Word of God, and to pass the Word of God on to others. With that kind of heart, God blessed and began gathering the rest of the people around him, and we're going to see that this morning as we look at Ezra chapter 8. And we're not going to start at verse 1. Ezra was a great one for naming a lot of names and keeping a list of people who were doing one thing or another. And the first 14 verses of chapter 8, you're welcome to read on your own, but I'm not going to read them here. But basically, it identifies the heads of the fathers' households and the genealogy of those who went with him from Babylon. And then it names the heads of the families. But then down in verse 15 was where we pick it up. And he says, "Now I gathered them by the river that flows to Ahava, and we camped there 3 days. And I looked among the people and the priests and found none of the sons of Levi there. And then I sent for Eleazar and Ariel and Shemelah, and Elnathan, and Jerib, and Elnathan, and Nathan, and Zechariah, and Meshullam, leaders, also for Jorab, and Elnathan. 3 Elnathans, if I count that right, was a popular name. Men of understanding. And I gave them a command for Iddo, the chief man at the place Casiphia. And I told them what they should say to Iddo and his brethren, the Nethinim at the place Casiphia, that they should bring us servants for the house of our God. Then by the good hand of our God upon us, they brought us a man of understanding of the sons of Mali, the son of Levi, the son of Israel, namely Sherebiah, with his sons and brothers, 18 men, and Hashabiah, and with him Jeshahiah, of the sons of Merari, his brothers and their sons, 20 men, and also of the Nethinim, whom David and the leaders had appointed for the services of the Levites, 220 Nethinim, all of them designated by name. Well, now that I've warmed up my lips and tongue with all those names, this is the first of the characteristics of a godly church. A godly church needs servants. It needs servants. Did you notice? Here they are. They're getting ready to go. They get just a little bit out of town. They're still in the province of Babylon near this river, and they camp there for 3 days. And here Ezra looks around and he goes, man, we got a pretty good number of people. Got about 45, 50,000 folks. That's not bad. And we have people and we have priests. But we don't have any Levites. Levites? Well, who are the Levites? Why do you need Levites? Well, the Levites were the sons of Levi, one of the 12 sons of Israel, otherwise known as Jacob. And the responsibility given to the tribe of Levi is very different from the other tribes. Tribe of Levi didn't get a big parcel of land like all the other tribes did when they moved into the land. They got certain cities and certain accounting, but the people of Levi, and that would include Moses and Aaron, were Levites. They were of the tribe of Levi. And they were the ones who were to be the servants in the temple. Those who were of the lineage of Aaron, they were the priests and the high priests. But the whole tribe of Levi, the Levites, they were called to be the servants in the temple. Now we think of that, in modern day Christianity, we talk about the Levites and, well, it's like the worship team. The Levites, they went out and they played, and the Levites went out before the ark in battle sometimes and played on the stringed instruments and the horns and stuff, and they were the worship team. They were the band. But the Levites did a lot more than just play in the band. Imagine for a moment a temple where every day hundreds of animals are slaughtered. I mean, that's where they were slaughtered. And the blood poured out and carved up. And depending upon the sacrifice, certain parts of that animal were laid on the altar and burned. Other parts were cooked and given to the priests or given to the people. They were bringing in the grain from the harvest and presenting it and waving it before the Lord as an offering. Hundreds of people, thousands of people coming every day to do this stuff. The place got kind of dirty. There was stuff all over the place from the day. But this is the Lord's house. I have a BBQ Grill at home. And you get these long handled scrub brushes with like this golden bristle brush at the end. I don't know if it's brass or what it is, but it's metal. You get them at the Busy Beaver right around the corner from my house. Only $5.95. No. And I get out there and I work on that thing. And when it's time to, get some grilling done, I'm out there and I'm working on that to scrape off all the scrapings from the last cookout. That's part of what had to be done.